Hi everyone, welcome back to the Video Revolution Summit, where we harness the power of video to skyrocket your online business success. Hi, I'm Nancy Walsh, and I am the co-host of this great summit, and I am beyond excited to introduce our fantastic speaker, Mellissa Tong. She is a three-time #1 best-selling author and award-winning storyteller. And as the founder and CCO of DuckPunk Productions, Mellissa has helped numerous businesses, including Nissan and Verizon, to elevate their brands and drive sales through impactful storytelling. Ms. Tong is a true rock star in her field. Prepare to be inspired as she shares her expertise on captivating your audience with storytelling. Hey, let's jump in. Welcome, Mellissa. So happy to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So tell me, let's jump in here and tell me about this storytelling for business. How do you describe that? What's it different
Um,
than just regular storytelling?
well, storytelling in business for me is really having a cohesive, compelling story
Mm,
to articulate what their brand is about, who they are as a person or founder, as well as not so much about what the business do, but what are the results, transformations, or impact they're, they are making in their clients' lives, regardless of whether it's a product or service. And then ultimately, what is the vision and mission for that company moving forward? So it's sort of like a conglomerate,
mm.
of everything blended into a well-crafted story to articulate why your audience and customers should buy from you. That to me is a my own definition of storytelling in business.
Yeah, well, that definitely, I can see why storytelling could be really powerful. You want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you guys some examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, when I tell them, when I or ask them this question, okay, so have you been using story or have you been, doing storytelling for your business? They say, oh yeah, we have. And I say, well, okay, tell me what you have been doing. And they would tell me, oh, I've been posting on social media. Oh, I've been doing Facebook Live, or I've been putting copies on my website. And those are all good things, but
Mm-hmm.
they are not necessarily storytelling. Okay. And here's why. Posting on social media, it's just posting, but it's the messaging that you're using, your languaging, right? What are
Mm-hmm.
you communicating in that social media post that would that would dictate whether or not you're driving traffic, right? So again, same thing as the website, that is copywriting. That is not exactly storytelling,
Yeah.
right? So, copywriting is another skill set. And you may have great copywriting on your website, but that again may or may not translate into storytelling to captivate your audience. So a good example would be I'll give you a feel, depending so in case, you have different audience from different sizes of, companies. So a I'll give you this one. So this is a CPA who has a CPA firm. So before we started working together, he said, okay, I have a good pool of clients, but I always like to go to networking events and then maybe just get some new potential interest because you never know which client's going to drop off, right? So it's okay, great. So I say, well, since you like networking, what do you say at networking events? He said, oh, very simple. I basically tell people, hi, I'm so and so, and I have a CPA firm. I like helping people save money from Uncle Sam, and I love working with numbers. I want to do it plain and simple. And after I heard that, I was like, okay, great. But don't you think other CPAs might say the same thing, right? He goes, oh, well, I never thought about it, but you got a point. You got a
Yeah,
point.
really.
And I said, okay, well, how do we fix that, right? He said, well, I don't know. I just love numbers. And like I said, I really enjoy helping people save money from Uncle Sam. But other than that, I don't really know what else to say. I say, okay, that's not a problem. That's why I'm here, right? So I want to help you craft, your brand story. He say, oh, okay, well, just tell me what you need. So I said, okay, well, why don't you start with telling me some of your stories, right? Tell me a good story from one of your clients. He goes, oh, well, I don't know if I have a good story because none of them have been audited. I said, okay, that's a good thing that they have not been audited, but
Right.
still, you must have a story. I mean, you work with so many different clients, right? You must have
That's
some
right.
story which is more memorable. He said, no, not really. My clients have been really good. They really take care of their paperwork, and I don't really have any crazy story or anything memorable from a client. I say, okay, no worries. What about, we talk about why you started your business. He goes, well, I already told you I started my business because I love numbers and I like helping people save money. I say, no, those are not it. Those are not your why. I mean, that everyone has to have a bigger why. That doesn't cut it. I say, okay, well, why don't you tell me some stories when you were back in college before you started your company? He goes, well, I'm a pretty good student. I always, went back to the dorm on time. I never did any crazy partying. I had pretty good grades. Nothing really out of the line, happened.
Hmm.
Um, pretty good college years, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, wow, it's pretty difficult. This guy's not giving me anything to work with. So, okay, well, what about high school? Well, I have pretty good parents, and like I said, I always study well. I got good grades. Um, I don't really do any crazy parties like some of my friends. I didn't even hang out with them. I always went home on time, and I don't think I have you know anything memorable to share. And at this point, I was like, you know what? We're not leaving until you at least give me one good story. I mean, I cannot believe everybody has stories, right? This is not acceptable when
Right.
you say you have
Right.
no stories, right? So I said, we're not leaving. And I could see like sweat started coming down. He was like, oh, what do I do now? So we're sitting there, sitting there. I say, well, I can keep asking you questions, but you keep telling me that you have nothing. So why don't we just keep going down the memory lane, right? Well, what about when you were younger? You know? Um, can you remember anything with your parents, anything with your siblings? Just give me something, right? And after a while, he goes, well, you know what? I actually have completely forgotten about this incident. When I was 9 years old, my father was audited. And I remember standing in the doorway, watching him pace back and forth, trying to get his paperwork ready. And at that time, I thought, wow, if only I could help him because he was driving the whole family crazy. Everyone was so stressed
Yeah.
out because we didn't know how to help him. And
Hmm.
his paperwork wasn't ready. And he was driving himself crazy. He was going insane, driving my mom crazy. Everybody was crazy because, he just wasn't ready. And I didn't know how to help him. I was too young. I barely knew what, filing taxes was all about. And but now that you're pushing me so hard, um, I somehow remembered the story.
Hmm.
And I say, well, don't you think that has something to do with you picking your major? He said, oh, well, you got a point there. But still, I don't see any relevance. I just love numbers. So to me, going into finance and helping people put the numbers together, to me, is a natural progression.
Hmm.
It's not something that I even think about. I say, yeah, that's precisely the point. Subconsciously, you already decided at 9 years old that you were going to be the hero to save your father. But because you couldn't do it back then, right? Once you got older, you had the chance, then you went straight into obviously you're not I mean you have to like numbers, right? But
Hmm.
because you love numbers, you like, helping people save money. So already like to you it was a natural progression, right? Because it stemmed from when you were 9 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
And he looked at me like wide eye, thinking, oh, she's right. How come I never thought about it, right? So I mean that's a perfect example. So a lot of people they go into the business for whatever reason, right? Sometimes they inherited the business, sometimes they might have bought a franchise, or sometimes they just got tired of the corporate leather and they decided to okay, I'm just gonna go on my own and just start doing my thing, right? Using my
Mm-hmm.
expertise. So whatever reason, you thought you had when you start your business, but to me it always comes back to something that either happened or something you were super excited or interested about when you were young.
And
So
how did that story affect him once you started sharing that?
well, because now he's no longer the boring CPA
Ah,
walking around telling people, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so. I have a CPA firm. I love numbers. I can help you save money from Uncle Sam." Nobody wants to hear that. And also, nobody cares. See, in this noisy, crowded marketplace, nobody
mm-hmm.
cares about what you do. I think a lot of people I find that every time I say that, a lot of my clients they just cannot accept. It's like to them, they don't want to hear it. But the truth is, nobody cares. That's the truth.
Until you
It doesn't
bring a
matter.
story.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you sell. It doesn't matter if service or product. At the end of the day, nobody cares about what you do unless what you do is so out of the ordinary that nobody else does that, right? Then you may
Mm-hmm.
get one person who wants to listen to it. But ultimately, nobody cares. So it's not about what you do, it's about how you can impact somebody's life, how you can make somebody's life better or different otherwise. So when I teach my seminar, I work with my independent clients. I ask them a bunch of questions, and one of the fundamental principle I go through with them, and this is the number one to me most important fundamental principle
Okay.
is why do people buy?
Mm.
And when I ask this, people say, "Oh, because I have a need, I have a want, I have this, I have that." Yes, but ultimately, what do people buy, and why do people not what? Why do people buy? Right? So people buy only because they believe. And again, this is a belief. People believe that their lives would be better or different afterwards.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, this is based on a belief. This belief has not been proven yet. But if they believe what you have can help me improve my lives or find ways to do certain things better in my life, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to open up my wallet. It's a belief,
Right.
right?
And then
So
storytelling
how
helps
can
bring
you
that
convey a
belief. Yeah.
belief that it's completely not tangible?
That is amazing. Yeah. And that is something that's really important to remember. The power of storytelling and how it can help with that belief, or
Correct.
that the
Storytelling,
product
yeah,
will
to
help
me, right.
or
Storytelling is
service.
the only
Yeah.
way that can contribute to that belief, not
Mm.
fact. So facts are good to justify why we buy afterwards.
Mm.
But in order to have that belief, it has to come from the emotional connection. And without emotional connection, the belief will never be there. And to
Right.
me, the only most, viable, most effective, the quickest way to get the emotional piece, right? Is through storytelling. Because when you storytell, you you communicate not just the fact, right? You
Mm-hmm.
communicate
A
more than just
feeling. Yeah. Almost. Yeah.
right? You feel the emotion. Like, for example, this CPA guy, right? When he talks about the story, yes, it is about filing taxes, saving money. But at the end of the day, what is the emotion that he communicates? What do you think is the emotional piece that that he shares.
He wanted to be a hero, and to make a difference in his life
Right. He wants to
and
be the
other
hero, but
people's. Yeah.
the emotion, the one emotion that he shares is the frustration.
Mm.
The frustration of not having the paperwork ready, the frustration of not knowing what's going to happen, the frustration of not being ready. You see, so that's the emotion he shares. Everybody can relate to being frustrated. We all have those minutes,
For
moments,
sure.
days, right? We all have that. So when he's able to communicate that, you and I, everybody can get, can be, find it relatable, right? Because we all know frustration. And in order to not have the frustration, he's by telling the story, he not only shares something sort of out of the ordinary for CPA, but
Right.
also he figured out what his ideal clients are. So he saves himself another, I don't know, several $1,000s to do marketing strategy. Marketing strategy, trying to find who are your ideal clients, right? But
Mm-hmm.
by stepping into his big why, which happened when he was 9 years old, he was able to narrow down, okay, for the people who don't care about whether the paperwork is ready or not, they are not my ideal clients.
Got
But
it.
I want to work with people who care and
Mm.
are willing to go the extra step to make sure that the paperwork is ready. Because when the paperwork is ready, when you get the call, you have no stress.
Mm-hmm.
You can just put all your paperwork into, your briefcase and or box and, drive to, IRS
Right.
and
Right.
this is my paperwork. There is no stress.
So for
There's no
oh,
frustration. You
so for
see?
someone trying to find their own story, you gave a great example for that. How would they do that? Going, like you almost have to. He was kind of stymied, but if they were trying to do it on their own or figuring out through your help, how do they find a story that really relates with their business, and how long should it be?
Well, like I said, you have to understand how your product or service it's making your clients' lives better or different.
Mm.
So this is the one big piece. And a lot of times it's difficult for the person who are in the business because you're too close to your business. Like I'm too close to my business, right? I had help, doing my stuff. It's the same. Because in a way, I'm asking people to flip the lens and come at it from a customer's point of view. You're no longer
Mm.
talking about your business coming from your point of view. You see, so before this guy worked with me, he was coming in from his point of view, right? I'm a CPA. I love numbers. I like helping people save money from Uncle Sam, right? That's from his point of view. But now the perspective is switched, right? He's no longer coming at it from yeah, it is a personal story, but he's coming at it from a customer's point of view, right? So by doing that, I relieve stress and frustration for my clients. Everybody who comes through my door, who wants to, have me file the taxes, they no longer have to worry about whether they're going to get audited or not any given day. That's how I make my clients' lives better. You see, so if flipping the lens is very, very difficult for most business owners because we're not trained to
Mm-hmm.
to think of it from a customer's point of view, right? So
Wow.
that would be the piece. And then when you say how long, I mean, I would say, depending on who you're talking your business with, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're pitching about your business, in a public setting, right? So I would say maybe 30 seconds, a minute max, right? Because
Okay.
people's attention span is so short nowadays. If you get any longer, people will start tuning out, right?
Right.
But if you're having a one-on-one, and you're sitting right next to each other, obviously you can go a little longer. So it just
Okay.
depends on, who your audience is.
And you were sharing with me earlier the difference about the founder story and a brand story. Do you want to go a little bit more into
Yeah.
that?
So a founder story to me is start the story and have it more from a personal point of view. A brand story is more from a company's point of view, right?
Oh.
So let me use this example. So this guy, if he were to share his founder story, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would be saying something like this. Hi, I'm so and so. I have a CPA firm. But for years, although I was doing taxes for my clients for years, I had no idea why I wanted to become a CPA. I
Mm-hmm.
just knew that I love numbers and I like doing, I like doing what I do. But I didn't quite, I wasn't able to make the connection between why I wanted this as a career until I started, working with a storyteller, and I was able to realize that actually I already made that decision subconsciously when I was 9 years old. I witnessed how my father, was audited and he wasn't ready. And he was driving, the whole family crazy. We were all completely stressed out. And at the time, I really wanted help. I wanted to be the hero, but I couldn't. I didn't know how, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
because that incident had such a deep impact on me, so subconsciously, I already decided at 9 years old, but obviously I didn't know. So I couldn't put it into words. But years later, going into finance and working with numbers, it has become a smooth transition for me. But now that I was able to make the connection, I realized that I already decided when I was 9 years old. That's why I started my company. And that's why, my company is about helping people to relieve the stress and frustration that comes with in case if they get audited. So that would be the founder story, right? More from
Wow.
a personal point of view. So if he were to talk
That makes
about it,
sense.
as a brand story, it would be the approach would be a little bit different, right?
Oh.
So he would say, okay, hi, I'm so and so, and this is our company. So our at the company, our mission and vision is really to help clients to 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 avoid stress and frustration that's associated with have getting a letter or call from IRS when they get audited. So we make sure that our clients understand that besides just giving all the paperwork, giving us all the numbers to file for
Mm-hmm.
the taxes, they have to realize that they have to play a part at it, and their part is making sure that the paperwork is ready to go,
Wow.
because if they're
Yeah.
not willing to do that extra step, then they would not be our ideal clients. And the reason why I say that is because when I was 9 years old, I witnessed my father was audited. And I remember standing in the hallway watching him, pacing back and forth trying to get his paperwork ready. And it was not a pretty sight. So that's why, at our company, our principle is to make sure that you're willing to do your part and we'll do our part, so that in case if you get audited, um, you would just walk in there with a big smile on your face. Something like that. I mean,
Right, right.
you see the difference between a
Yes.
personal story and a brand
I
story. I
really
mean,
appreciate you going into
yeah,
that,
the
nuance
elements,
there.
the elements are the
Yeah.
same, right? But you approach it very differently. And the way you talk about it is also different.
Got it. And as far as storytelling on camera, could you, explain maybe a little bit of how they could adapt storytelling techniques to be more engaging and impactful on camera?
Yeah, absolutely. So now, I mean, with some in-person events coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some meetings are still on Zoom, right? So I'll give you a very quick, perfect example. So when if you have to do it on Zoom, and this is me looking straight at the camera, and if you were to present yourself on Zoom, you have to, I know there may be people on, in the same Zoom room, right? And our tendency is look at the person. Like, for example, I'm looking straight at you now. So I'm not looking at the camera, right? So our normal tendency is look at different people, look into their eyes, because we're human beings. We look for validation from other human beings. So it's unnatural to not look at the people, but look at the camera, right? But if you want to be engaging in front of a crowd on Zoom, so you have to ignore your urge to look at people's eyes
Right.
and go the unnatural way, which is look into the camera. So like I'm talking straight into the camera now, and I'm not looking at you at all. So this would be a good way to try to engage your audience on it,
Yeah.
more on it from an emotional point of view, because
Same for
I'm
me. I'm looking at the
right at
camera.
you.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at the audience, meaning your audience who are watching me right now, right? Instead
Mm-hmm.
of looking at you, now I'm looking at you, just talking to you, right? So that would be a good step. Another way is framing is quite important, whether you're on Zoom or with a camera, right? So a
Mm.
lot of people, they don't pay attention to the framing. So you know how I frame myself with a little bit of headroom here,
Mm.
right? And then I'm kind of right in the middle, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, and I'm going to adjust the angle of my computer to show you, right? So a lot of people, they frame this themselves like this.
Mm.
Okay. So they have so much headroom. The head is almost cut off. You don't see
Yes.
anything else. You see, so like I said, doesn't matter whether it's Zoom room or camera, right? If
Right.
I'm putting myself on camera, this would be a bad angle. You see how much space there
You get
is?
kind of lost in this
Yeah.
big white
And I'm just
space.
looking at so much wall space and it's not much of me, right? So you need to adjust your camera like that.
Now I feel like I'm connected to you again. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have a little bit of headroom now. Don't go overboard though. Some people went overboard
Yeah.
and then they go like that, so the head is cut off. Okay, so don't do that. Do this with a little bit of headroom, a little bit of space. See a little bit of your, at least your shoulder, upper body, right? And because now, you're occupying, the space
Yes.
and you are the focus of the camera, right? And then when you talk, sometimes I like to use my hands sometimes. Whether or not you use your hands, you have some space to play with, right? If you use your hands, you have some space like here. And if you don't want to use hand, it's fine. You're just sitting there and talking, right?
I don't
So
think I
those
could
would
talk
be,
without using my hands. You
yeah.
know.
So and also another thing is I like to have something a little decorative, in the frame. So I
Mm.
call this the frame, right? The frame. So I like to have a little plant right here, next to me. And sometimes people have big plants. Now, depending on how big the plant is, if the
Mm-hmm.
plant has a lot of branches, really huge, and if it's sitting right next to you, it may look like you have branches coming out from your ears.
Yeah.
You know what I
Or
mean?
a picture frame that's a picture
Yeah.
that's right
So I
there,
would
but it's going out their head. You know.
avoid having big objects right next to you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you have with your flowers is okay because it's a little off the side. It's not like next to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And your bookshelf is okay because it's a little off, right? So yeah, just pay attention to that. And also another thing is make sure you have good lighting. So
Yes.
I have an extra light in front of me when I go on camera because otherwise, sometimes room lighting, it's just not bright enough. And I have seen so many people who go on Zoom and their face is completely dark
Mm-hmm.
because, they're sitting in front of a window and the Zoom camera adjusts itself, and catches the light from behind you. So that's why your face is
All
completely dark.
black.
Yeah. So those are just a few things, basic few things that you can pay attention to in order to make your video a lot more engaging and captivating, like you said.
Is there any kind of subtle, non-verbal, help that while you're, sharing a story, I mean, getting them more in touch with the, I guess, whether you're smiling or not, or, I think you did handle the hands and so forth, but are there any other cues for
Yeah, I
storytelling or
would
any other little tips on just telling your story,
I would definitely start yourself with in a pleasant mindset
Mm.
because sometimes things happen during the day and you know, you get sidetracked, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
you get frustrated with something, or you get pulled into some sort of conversation or struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to record something right after that. You make sure that you leave whatever that is not pleasant behind and you set yourself up with in a different state of mind.
Mm.
Like, okay, whatever happened, okay, I'm gonna leave it there, right? I'm gonna come back to it because you can't resolve it at the moment anyway. So now I'm doing recording, and I need to set myself up in a pleasant state of mind. And in order to have a pleasant state of mind, you gotta start with a smile on your face. Now, I know for some people it's very difficult. And you might have to fake the smile because some people don't like to smile. I love to laugh, so it's not an issue. But some
Yes.
people understand they're more serious. They don't like to laugh or smile too much. So it may feel unnatural, but it
Especially on
will work.
camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before you record, right? You kind of think about, okay, this is what I want to say. I'm in a good state of mind, and am I ready? Check in with yourself, right? If you're not ready, give yourself a few more minutes and you say, okay, yes, I'm ready. So once you hit the record button, smile, even if it feels fake, right?
Yes.
Because once you have that smile and then you start from there, because when you start talking, it's not going to feel like a smile anymore, right? Because you're just moving your mouth. But if you have that and then you go into, talking,
Mm.
and then you setting up yourself in a pleasant state of mind. But if you start, when you start record, you have a very stern or serious face, like, you know, then when you start talking, that energy is going to, you know, keep going, right?
Yeah.
And then you won't have that pleasant state of mind.
And it
So that's
brings
why,
the smile brings even more energy to your
exactly. So
voice and
that's
to
why
your
I'm smiling.
presence.
Exactly. Yeah. Start with a smile, even if it
Mm-hmm.
feels natural, even if it feels fake, because they're not going to see the big smile. You are seeing it. And then once you start, your mouth moves and it's not a big smile anymore.
Yes. Oh, well,
That's the one tip I would say.
this
Yeah.
has been amazing. I love, and I think you have a free gift that you'd like
Oh,
to share. I'd
yeah.
love to.
So if any of you would be interested in how to be a rock star on camera, learn more about the camera techniques, right? I did this ebook called the How to Be a Rock Star on Camera in with 5 tips. So it's very short, just a few pages. You can go at rockstaroncamera.com to download the
Okay,
ebook.
and we'll have that also on the speakers page below your name. A link for
Mhm.
that, so that'll be available. Awesome. And if they want to learn more about you, can you share a little bit more about that?
If you want to learn about me, I'm very easy
Yeah.
to find. So I have 2 L's and 2 S's in my name. So it's Mellissa Tong, and my company is called DuckPunk, DuckPunk.net.
How did that name came about? I'm just curious. I think it's so great.
Yeah, that name has a pretty deep meaning.
Yeah.
So more than 20 years ago, I was trying to find a name for my company, and I was at this lake feeding ducks with breadcrumbs. And there was a mohawk duck with a mohawk just like my logo. And back then there was no camera on the phone, so I couldn't take an image. I couldn't take a picture. So after 45 minutes, I was leaving. And as I was walking away, I would still throw some breadcrumbs into the lake. And this mohawk duck would charge over to get to the food. And I kept looking at him thinking, wow, you've been eating this whole time. You want to do that. How much more can you eat? Like, aren't you full by now, right? So that night I went home. I couldn't shake that image off my head. So I started playing with the word punk duck, mohawk, punk rock, and then 6 weeks later, I named my company DuckPunk. But that's half of the story. At the
Yeah.
time, my justification was because my last name is Tong. So I'm always by alphabetical order, I'm always on the last or second last page. So
Uh,
I thought if I have a company name, I don't want it to start with P or something later. I want to start earlier, right?
there you
So
go.
instead of Duck, I flipped it and call it DuckPunk. But years later, the duck became my inspiration because
Oh,
as a woman of color working in entertainment and advertising, I realized that every time I have to jump across a hurdle or when I fall, I have to pick myself up
mm,
and like him, keep going after what I want. So that's
Oh,
the
that's a great story, and a good example of sharing, a storytelling that really you can relate to and feel, connected with you. It's just been wonderful for you to be sharing, some of these different, all the good parts of storytelling. Do you have any parting message for our audience?
Yeah, just be authentic when you tell your story, because
Mm,
I I'm sure that many other storytellers out there, working with different, companies or businesses, and a lot of time they focus on, oh, if you do this, I can take you from here to here and blah blah blah. But
mm,
at the end of the day, it's not about that. If you cannot truly share your real life experiences, then it becomes fake. You see, it becomes not real. So my focus is, I've always only wanted to draw real life experiences from, people, and
mm.
then craft a real authentic story. Because when it's real, when it's authentic, then I don't care what the story is. It's the truth, right? Nothing beats the truth.
Yeah.
And sometimes the story could be outrageous, right? But it doesn't matter because it's real, it happened. So
There you
I,
go.
and I think that makes it more interesting, and that makes it unbeatable, because you are the only one who has that story,
It
because
does
it's
set you
only it's
apart,
your
yeah,
story,
from your
right?
competitors and so
Part,
forth. Yeah.
right? But if you try to copy and say, things that everybody's been saying or using, then you become just one in a million.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no power in that. So actually the true power lies in, you know, in being real and being authentic and really articulating, your past experience, and really figuring out, why is your company different than your
Mm.
competitor. When you can truly articulate those values, then, you know, I mean, even if they don't buy you right now, I mean, if you can make them believe again, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can make them believe, you can help them, in one way or another, then sooner or later they will become your customer.
Well, great. So thank you, Mellissa, so much for sharing your expertise on captivating an audience with storytelling. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's been great. Your insights and expertise have been so valuable for growing a business through storytelling. I really appreciate it. And to all our viewers, thanks for joining us. Don't miss our next session as we keep unveiling game changing video strategies for your business success. Yes. And be sure to join our Summit Facebook group, Cutting Edge Video Solutions Community. You can find that in the email that you've been getting. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mellissa.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.